بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وبارك على الأشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, today is the first of our series of lessons that we will be beginning in al-Uṣūl as-Sittah, yani the 6 principles of Islam by Shaykh al-Islām, Muḥammad al-Wahhāb. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we intend to go through this with the explanations and the points of explanation throughout the text, inshaAllah, with a discussion around each of these 6 principles, inshaAllah. So beginning, just as we began with other texts as well, when we began Qawaid al-Arba, in the 4 principles of shirk, or al-Uṣūl, the 3 principles, we begin by discussing the importance of the text itself. And Shaykh Abdul Bukhari, he mentions that the text, the matter of al-Uṣūl as-Sittah, min mutula muhimma ينبغي الاهتمام بها. And so the text of al-Uṣūl as-Sittah is from those texts that carry great importance. And these texts that carry great importance, and it's a must, and it's befitting that a person gives it that importance as well. And so not only is the text important in of itself, but when a person is studying it, he gives it its due right. And the reason for that is that these 6 principles that have been mentioned here are gathered between 6 important and foundational principles in which the deen of Islam, the religion of Islam, is upheld, and the correct and upright manner of the religion of Islam is upheld. And so if a person has deficiency in regards to any of these 6 principles, then this is representative of the fact that he will be deficient in his Islam. That if he's deficient in any of these 6 principles, then he'll be deficient in regards to Islam. And it's possible that if a person is deficient in his Islam, then this may be a means of him actually leaving the fold of Islam itself. And so, due to that, Imam Muḥammad ibn Abdul Wahhāb, raḥimahullāh, he's wrote this particular treatise, this particular text. And it's a means as well of the people benefiting from it. And it's a text that everyone can benefit from. The alim can benefit from it, the scholar, the talib ilm, the student of knowledge, as well as the general person. The one that is a talib ilm, the mubtadi, the one that is just beginning his studies, as well as the muntahi, the student that is at the end of his studies almost. He's upon that path of becoming a scholar in of himself. Every single individual is able to benefit from the text in of itself. And as for the text, then of course it's referred to as al-Uṣūl as-Sittah. Now, the 6 foundation principles. The word asl, so the word usul is the plural of the word asl. And the word asl linguistically means يعني ما يبنى عليه غيره or ما يبنى عليه غيره. So something that other things are built upon. And that's how we understand things as well, generally speaking. We talk about a basis, or we talk about a foundation. The foundation is the first thing we lay, and then everything is built upon that. And so the word asl is the same thing. That you have the things that are built upon that particular first thing. As for the word asl in terms of the text itself and the Shari'ah, the religion of Islam, then the asl means that it's a dalil ala shay. It's a proof of something. And it is something that is establishing a proof of something that will come after. And so, with this fact that we have these six principles that we will discuss in the text, whilst these 6 principles are there and they are completely clear, the Shaykh Abdul Bukhari mentions فيه كثير من المخالفين. However, you have many individuals that oppose them, many people that will oppose them. And so, due to the fact they have many people that oppose them, this was the illah, this was the reason why the Shaykh wrote the book itself. So even though that all these principles are absolutely clear, you still have people that oppose them. And so with the presence of those that oppose these principles, you have to write something to clarify these principles. So that people can see how the person should truly practice their religion of Islam. And so within this, the Shaykh, he intended to clarify all of the issues in relation to creed, or the greatest issues in relation to the creed of Islam, as well as the masail amaliyah, as well as the actions that a person needs to embark upon. No doubt, when we understand the origin of Islam, barakallahu feekum, it's not just the creed. Of course, we have a creed and what we believe. We have to believe in these things that we will mention. But also a person has to follow that with action. Now, at the head of that is the shahada. Now, the shahadatain. That the shahadatain is not sufficient that the person says, for example, I believe that there is no deity worthy of worship besides Allah. This is sufficient for me to believe. He doesn't suffice with that. Why? Because he has to state it upon the tongue. So if, for example, he was an individual, Shaykh Fawzan, hafidhahullāh, he mentioned, if he was an individual that states that just really believes the shahada within the heart, however, he does not state it upon the tongue, then this does not differ, or he does not differentiate himself from the mushrikeen of Quraysh, or some of the mushrikeen of Quraysh. Some of the mushrikeen, the polytheists, those that worship other than Allah, they truly believe that only Allah should be worshipped. However, they do not act upon that belief that they held. And so they do not state it upon their tongue. And so it's not sufficient. Likewise, the opposite is true as well. It's not sufficient that the person merely states it upon the tongue, however, they do not believe it within the heart. Because no doubt, this is something which is reflective of the affair of the munafiqeen, the hypocrites. Those that act in a particular way, however, that which resides within the heart is not the correct belief. So, this text here is seeking to marry between the two. Between the affair of your correct creed, as well as the affair of action upon that creed as well. Acting upon that creed. And so, this is why this text was written. And this is just a quick introduction into what we have with this text, before us here in our hands, and why it carries such importance. As for the text itself, then the author begins, raḥimahullāh, by way of stating, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu wa sallam, wa barak ala nabiyyina Muḥammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ajma'in. قال الشيخ محمد بن عبد الوهاب إمام دعوة الإسلامية حماة ملة الحنيفية من أعجب العجاب وأكبر الآيات الدالة على قدرة الملك الغلاب 6 الأصول بينها الله تعالى بيانا واضحا لأوام فوق ما ظن ظانون ثم بعد ذلك غلط فيها أذكياء العالم وعقلاء Bani Adam illa aqall al-qaleel. And so he begins by way of the statement, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the one that bestows the mercy. Shaykh al-Islām Muḥammad Abdul Wahhāb, he mentions from the most amazing of the affairs and the greatest of the ayat, of the signs that indicates the power of the Malik, Allah Ta'ala, the Malik, the Ghullab, al-Ghallab, the one that overcomes, are these 6 foundations which Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has clarified to the general people. Allah Ta'ala has clarified to the general people, irrespective of what those that suspect may suspect, and those that have false understanding may suspect. Thereafter, those that are regarded as being from the intelligent amongst the people, and those that are regarded as being intellectual amongst Bani Adam, the children of Adam, fell into error, except for the small number within the minority. And so this is the introduction of Shaykh al-Islām Muḥammad ibn Abdul Wahhāb, raḥimahullāh, and our speech regarding it is based upon particular points. So our speech regarding that introduction is based on particular points. The first of those points is regarding the basmalah. So the first of the points is regarding the statement of Imam, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This basmalah, and what is referred to as the basmalah, is taking the example, first and foremost, of the Book of Allah, as well as the example of the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when the Shaykh began with the words Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, then of course he's beginning with that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala began with. Where Allah ta'ala began with this basmalah in all of the surah in the Quran other than which surah? All the surahs began with the basmalah? Tawbah. Now, and we mentioned this previously. Assalamu alaikum. That's all right. Now, so he began with the basmalah in accordance with the surahs of the Quran, all except for Tawbah. And we discussed this previously. Now, I believe we discussed it when we went through Qawaid al-Arba and discussed it when we went through al-Uṣūl. Now, and we mentioned that Surah al-Tawbah does not have the basmalah. Why? There's 2 reasons that I mentioned. That some mentioned just the reason why it was revealed as that. That Surah al-Tawbah, all the surahs in the Quran, each surah in the Quran was revealed beginning with the basmalah, except for Surah al-Tawbah. Now, another reason that some mentioned, scholars mentioned,
continuation from the previous surah.
It's a continuation from the previous surah, which is Surah Anfal. Now, Surah Anfal. So, some of the scholars say that the Surah Tawbah was a continuation from Surah Anfal, and so because it was a continuation from Surah Anfal, it didn't have the basmalah. Whilst others mentioned that it was just in the manner in which it was revealed, that it was revealed without the basmalah. And Allah Ta'ala knows best, that is the stronger of the 2 opinions. So, likewise as well, when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would begin his writing to, if he was writing to the leaders, and it was in his khitab, his address to the individuals was an address of da'wah, then he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would begin with the basmalah. He'll begin with the words Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And what we understand from this as well is that the basmalah has after it a wording or a sentence which is referred to as muqaddara, i.e. implied or intended. So when a person says, for example, he's reading and he says Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, the meaning of that is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim Aqra. And in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the bestower of mercy, I'm reading. Or if he says Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim before he eats, in the name of Allah, to the end of the statement, I'm eating, or I'm reciting Quran. So he's referring to the basmalah and then the action that he does after that. Naam. And so this is why, no doubt, the Shaykh, he begins with this text. Naam, he begins with this wording. With no doubt he's saying, in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the bestower of mercy, that I, naam, begin this text. I begin these words that come after. Naam. And so, he mentions, so that's the first point, in regards to the basmalah. Our second point, barakallahu feekum, is in relation to his wording from the most, in the amazing of the matters, is something that brings about, no doubt, shiddat al-ujub. Something that brings about, a harsh manner, or, a stark amazement when it comes to these 6 principles. It's an affair which is stark, something which is clear. Because as we mentioned before, each of these principles are clear. And so, from the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He's laid out these 6 principles. And these 6 principles are laid out and found within the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And so he mentions that. Naam. And it's something which brings to people's attention. When he mentions that straight away, it's one of the most amazing of affairs. Now, it catches the attention of the people. And so, he seeks, no doubt, to clarify, by way of stating that as well, that the amr, the affair in of itself, the matter in of itself, the matter of these 6 principles, is one which is of grandeur. Naam, it's a great matter. Or these are 6 great matters that are placed together. And so this is why he mentions that particular wording, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Thereafter, so that's our second point. Naam. Our third point is the mentioning of al-bayan wa idah. Our third point is in relation to the fact that he mentions these points with clarity. And the clarity comes as a reality of the fact that the ʿabd, the servant, is in need of hidayah. The servant of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala is in need of hidayah. And hidayah comes about by way of clarity. And due to the fact that the servant of Allah is in need of that guidance, this is why he asks Allah Ta'ala in every salah and all of his salawat. He asks Allah Ta'ala to guide him to the Sirāt al-Mustaqim, to guide him to the straight path. To guide him to the straight path in all of the salawat. وهداية للطريق شيء. And so this is asking to be guided to that path, the Sirāt al-Mustaqim, the Tariq al-Haq, that path towards the Haq, and guidance, and being upright. And so the servant is in need of guidance to that. And is in need of guidance to that which is sahih, that which is correct. And in need of guidance to the sahih al-i'tiqad. He's in need of guidance to the correct path. Why? Because when we understand guidance, barakallahu feekum, al-hidayah is of 2 types. Guidance is of 2 types. You have hidayah to tawfīq, wa hidayah to irshad. Hidayah to tawfīq, wa hidayah to irshad. No, tfaddal. So hidayah to tawfīq, wa hidayah to irshad. Hidayah to tawfīq, or hidayah to irshad, essentially, guidance when you're directing a person towards the truth. You're directing an individual towards the truth. So essentially it's da'wah. So when you're giving da'wah to someone, you're including this da'wah, and you're telling them about tawheed, or you're telling them about the sunnah, you're telling them about clinging to the way of Allah, you're telling them about being obedient. All of this is hidayah to irshad. However, when you're calling someone to the truth, you're inviting someone to the truth, their acceptance of the truth is not in your hands. Allah Ta'ala mentions, لَيْسَ عَلَيْكُمْ هُدَاهُمْ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَن يَشَاءُ. Not upon you their guidance, however Allah Ta'ala guides who He wills. إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. Indeed, you do not guide who is beloved to you. The guidance of these individuals is not in your hands. So the irshad directed them towards the khair. That is something that you can do. You direct them. As for that second type of guidance, hidayah to tawfīq, where Allah Ta'ala bestows upon an individual success, then that hidayah to tawfīq is from Allah. That hidayah to tawfīq is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because it is with Allah Ta'ala if that person accepts that da'wah. A person may hear the truth. However, them hearing it and accepting it are two different things. That truth reaching them and they accepting that truth that reaches them are two different things. And so this is why, no doubt, we as individuals are in need of guidance, are in need of al-bayan, in need of clarity, and be directed toward that which is khair. Because ultimately, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is the one that will guide us towards the khair. And make us from those that accept that truth when it comes to us. And it's not for us, it's not our own actions. None of us can say, for example, that we are guided because we are individuals that are deserving of that. No, rather, an individual is guided to the truth by way of the fadl of Allah, by way of the virtue of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The virtue of Allah, this is why a person is guided to the truth. Allah Ta'ala bestowed that virtue upon him. And so this is why we ask for it. This is why we ask in every one of our salawat, ihdina as-sirāta al-mustaqīm, guide us to the straight path. Because we are in need of that. And so when it mentions, it has the mention of the bayan, that which is clear and manifest, that which is wadih. Now we need a clarity. Because this clarity aids us in accepting the truth. When the truth comes to us and information comes to us, but it comes to us with clarity, that aids us in accepting it. Now this is why the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam he stated, تَرَقْتُكُمْ عَلَى الْبَيْضَاءِ لَيْلَهَا كَنَهَارِهَا لَا يَزِيغْ عَنْهَا إِلَّا حَالِكَ. I left you upon a clear way. He's mentioned sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I left you upon a clear way, clear white way. Its night is like its day. No one deviates from it except for the one that's destroyed. The affair of the truth is clear. Because if we're going to accept the truth, then it has to come to us with clarity. And so, no doubt, these principles, these 6 principles come with that particular matter of clarity, and Allah Ta'ala knows best. And our 4th point, barakallahu feekum, is that the guidance and clarity comes by way of the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that when Allah Ta'ala mentions وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرَ لِتَبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِلَ إِلَيْهِمْ, and that we revealed to you these words of remembrance to clarify the clarity for the people that which has been revealed to them. This mentioning of the dhikr here, these words of remembrance, Ibn Kathir raḥimahullāh and Baghawi raḥimahullāh, they both mention that the intent of the dhikr is the wahy. The intent of the words of remembrance is the wahy, the wahyain. The revelation. That the revelation has come, and the revelation has come as a means of clarifying our existence. The revelation has come as a means of clarifying the revelation. So you have the Quran has been revealed. Naam. And then you have the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam that clarifies that which is found in the Book of Allah. This is why, no doubt, the person cannot say that I'm only clinging to the Quran. I'm only going to follow the Quran. Naam. Why? Because we have to follow the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. What he was upon, what he called to alayhi salatu wasalam. The person cannot say I'm just going to cling to this one thing, the Quran, as that group, the Quraniyun state. When Allah Ta'ala subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ, and establish the prayer. Allah Ta'ala commands us for establishing the prayer. The manner in which the prayer is established, the matter of raka'at, when the Prophet ﷺ stated, Sallu, kama ra'aytumuni usalli, pray as you see me pray. All of these things are established within the Sunnah. All of these things are established within the hadith of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So no doubt, we understand from that the people, anyone from the general people, are in need of the wahyin, the need of the Quran, and they're in need of the Sunnah. They're in need of the Quran, the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're in need of the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that which is found within his Sunnah. And so, with this, no doubt, this particular text, the Shaykh, he seeks to outline these particular matters with its clarity as well, with clarity found within. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. As for the fifth point I want to mention as well, in relation to the introduction, where he mentions that the individuals fall into error regarding this from Bani Adam. So when it comes to these 6 principles, the people fall into error regarding it from Bani Adam, from the children of Adam, meaning all of human beings fall into error regarding this, except for aqal qaleel. So except for a small minority. Now, except for a small minority. So the 6th point I want to mention in relation to this wording, a small minority. And so, what we understand from this is that kathra, the majority or large numbers, is not a dalil al-haq. So having large numbers does not prove now that a person is upon the haq. Naam. A person can now say I'm upon the haq because I've also large numbers with me. Whilst when you find the sifat, the descriptions and ascriptions of Ahlul Haq, so when you find the people of truth being described mainly for the most part, one of the things that you find that they're being described with is akillah. That the majority of the time, the people of truth are going to be a minority, whether they're a minority within their society, whether they're a minority amongst a group of people, whether they're a minority in the whole world itself. The people of truth generally, when they're described as a minority. And so, what we understand from this as well, as Shaykh and Shaykh Abdul Bukhari, he mentions, al-haq, qilla fil adad, wa kathra fil haq. So, the haq, the truth in of itself, the truth, is small when it comes to number, a number of followers. However, kathra is large when it comes to the truth. So the truth itself, when it comes to those followers, is small in number. However, when it comes to having the truth with it, then of course it is large in number. And no doubt that's what takes precedence. And that's what we look towards as being significant. The truth. And not the numbers. A person cannot now say he's upon the truth because he has X amount of followers. And that's true to this day that we live in now. For if we look at this society that we have now, the society with the advent of social media, If you was to ask who has the most amount of followers on social media, it wouldn't be a person of truth. It wouldn't be a person calling to truth. It's just a person that appeals to the most amount of people. And appeals to the most amount of people's desires. Or their whims. But it doesn't now mean that this is indication that they are upon the truth. The number is not significant. A proof of that is a statement of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where he mentions بدأ الإسلام غريب ويسيعون غريبا كما بدأ. That Islam began as something strange and will return as something strange as it began. فَطُوبَى لِغُرَبَاء. So glad tidings be to the strangers. So Islam began as something strange. And this is no doubt, this is the reality. That when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam began his da'wah, it was regarded as something strange. Calling the people to Tawheed was regarded as something strange. The response of the mushrikeen was what? Inna hadha la shay'un ujab. Inna hadha la shay'un ujab. Indeed, this is a great, strange matter that you've come with. Friends in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That you should direct all of your worship to one, to Allah Ta'ala, without any partners. They regarded that as being a matter which was strange. And so, with this, barakallahu feekum, Islam and the da'wah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam began as something strange. And thereafter as well, it will be regarded as being strange towards the end. Why? Because when you find the deviation increases. A deviation, splitting of different types will increase. That those individuals that split from the truth, they may resemble the truth initially, and then split from it. But there's an increase of that. Hence why the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he mentions, وَمَنْ يَعِشْ مِنْكُمْ فَسَيَرَى اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. That whoever lives from you, yani after me, then you'll see much differing. You'll see much differing. So this is what will occur. And so then there will be much differing, and with all of these people differing, because the batil is going to be many, fools will be many, or many types. So amongst all of that, the people of truth will remain. There will be people of truth remain. However, they will be regarded as individuals that are strange. So it began as something strange and will return as something strange, just as it began. And then the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in the narration, وَتُوبَى لِغُرَبَى. Tuba li-ghuraba. Tuba, this word here, tuba, some of the scholars refer to it as meaning generally, يعني, glad tidings. Glad tidings for the strangers. This is an encouragement for the one. Even if you're regarded as being strange, as long as you're clinging to the truth, and what you're upon is the truth, glad tidings. Now, glad tidings. Essentially, that which you're upon is true, and so you attain good from that as a result of that. Likewise, some of the scholars mention this word tuba, referring to a specific valley in Jannah. A specific valley in Jannah, in paradise. That this valley is reserved for those that are the strangers. So no doubt there is a time that you will be regarded as strangers in and amongst the people of falsehood. But because you're clinging to the truth, then that's what's reserved for you in that hereafter. So, again, the central point being that it does not matter that the person is small, the person or these people, this group of people are small in number. What is significant is that they're clinging to the truth itself. That's what's significant. And so, what is upon them is established the deen al-qayyim, the upright deen, and cling to it. However, as you find, the people that decide or the people that seek to cling to it are small in number. They're small in number because clinging to the truth at times may come with its difficulties. Hence why the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned clinging to the haqq or clinging to the sunnah is like clinging to hot coals. They may come with its difficulties. Or why he mentioned, alayhi salatu wasalam, when it came to clinging to the sunnah, hold on firm to it with your molar teeth. But the person may be wavered and shook. And so that shaking of his resolve is something that now requires for him to cling to it with his molars. Cling to it with his molar teeth. And remain upon that truth. Likewise, from the proof as well, that large numbers is not a proof in of itself, is the fact that when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that he saw the prophets, he saw each of the respective prophets, and he saw the respective prophets with numbers with them. Some of them with larger numbers. Some of them with one or two individuals. Some of them with one individual. Some of them with no one with them. But they're prophets. So of course they're all upon the truth. But when they come forth with their nations, those that follow them in that truth, then it's not a case that everyone will follow them in that truth, or the majority will follow them in that truth. Sometimes you have one person, and that's the Jamāʿah. That's your Jamāʿah. That's the group that has clung to the truth with you. Or two people. Or a small number of people. And so, this is another thing that is mentioned in relation to that. Along with that as well, we have the statement of Abdurrahman ibn Mahdi, raḥimahullāh. He mentioned, جلست يوم الجمعة فإذا كثر الناس فرحت وإذا قل حزنت فسألت بشر بن عبد الله فقال هذا مجلس السوء هذا مجلس السوء. So Abdurrahman al-Mahdi mentioned that I would sit يوم الجمعة, and if the people were many, I'll become happy. And if the people were small in number, then I would be saddened. And so I asked Bishop Ibn Abdullah about this. And he mentioned, in regards to these large numbers, how the Majlis al-Uṣūl, that this is an evil gathering. So just because there were large numbers of people, doesn't mean that all those people were from the righteous or upright, the Salihin. Rather, that Majlis in of itself, as he mentions, was one which was a Majlis, a gathering of those that weren't upon the truth, essentially, and those that did not cling to the truth. And so these are the 5 points that I wanted to mention here in relation to the introduction, barakallahu feekum. And with that, inshallah, we'll leave it here, bi'idhnillah. And our next lesson will go on to the first of our 6 principles, which is regarding ikhlas, sincerity for Allah Ta'ala. I think hopefully everyone got the notebooks, or the brothers can bring, yeah, so if there's any more that needs to be brought, then the brothers can bring them, inshallah. And maybe we'll leave some in the bookshop as well, so whoever needs to pick them up, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Barakallahu feekum. Sallallahu wa barak ala nabiyyina Muḥammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Now, different explanation, but mainly that of Shaykh Fawzan, and some of the notes from Shaykh Abdul Hakeem. No.